At the beginning of January, I discovered a rather interesting game jam on itch called the Juice Jam, where not only would your game be rated off of how fun it is or how the art looks, but also game juice. But sadly, it was starting on the day that school was also starting, so I decided to not participate.
So apparently school closed because of some sort of virus going around, so I guess let's just do the jam.
Now, although it'd be strange if you were watching this video without knowing what a game jam nor what game juice is, because I made it abundantly clear in the title, let me quickly explain what those terms mean. A game jam is a game making competition, where game developers have a limited amount of time to create a game from scratch. Sometimes it's in themes, usually it's got some thematic twist at the beginning that's revealed, but yeah, basically just make game fast and compare yourself to other random faceless people online. And probably get depressed because you compare yourself to other people with an unfair standard and refuse to take pride in your own work, of course. And now game juices.
Feel, sometimes referred to as game juice, is the intangible tactile sensation. What? Most basic mechanic? Oh, dude, Google, give it to me straight, doc. You know I dropped out of 2nd grade English. Come on.
Game juice is a big boom, loud sound, shaky screen, funny particles, and other audiovisual feedback. Things that basically make your game feel juicy. Alright, well, let's now get into the painful process of the creation of my latest game, KART Racing. Also, I'm trying to create shorter YouTube videos, so someone tell me what they prefer, longer or shorter. Day 1. I wasn't actually able to do much work on day 1, so I mostly just brainstormed. The jam theme was Don't Stop, and I actually thought that was quite an interesting concept. Not stopping could be many things. A game where you constantly have to collect coins because you're in crippling debt that constantly grows. A game where your gun trigger got jammed and now you cannot stop shooting. A game where you're being chased by a wall of flesh-esque entity and you cannot stop moving for a small amount of time or you get eaten. And then it struck me. The vampire game that I semi-scrapped back in September. If you watch some of my old videos, you might remember that I was working on a top-down arena bullet hell shooter where you play a vampire that is bleeding out and must constantly kill to gain blood. And I didn't really let that idea go because I thought it was quite cool and I finally had a reason to make it. Only, this time I decided that it would be a linear, level-based kind of game. So with the limited time I had today, I made a bit of the art, I made a player controller, and sadly had to go to bed. Well, actually I just watched The Boys till 4 AM, but that's not what the video is about. Day 2. I decided to make a basic zombie entity to kill because I didn't have anything to shoot at. And then for some unknown reason, I thought it'd be a great idea to spend all my time on a top-down ragdoll system. Yeah, it did not work. But next, despite me being a game developer, I was forced to have a life, buy my family, and go skiing. No, Mom, it's not because I have no friends and that the only satisfaction of working code brings me any sort of emotion anymore. You just don't understand the game dev sigma grind set. While suffering a severe Unity withdrawal up on the mountain, I realized something. Basically, everyone I spoke to on the Game Jam Discord server was making a top-down bullet hell or a platformer. Apart from the one dude who decided to make a tile-matching puzzle game similar to Candy Crush but a bit more strategic. And their game actually ended up being quite cool, so it's called Batch 3 and y'all should play it. But back to the project. I understand why everyone was making bullet hell or platformer games. Practically every game that has ever been praised for juiciness are platformers or bullet hells. Celeste is a platformer and many people have talked about how responsive and snappy the controls feel. Also, I played it just recently and it's great. Enter the Gungeon is probably one of the most popular, famous bullet hells ever, and it feels amazing to play. Or Nuclear Throne, and I've never played it, but I've heard so many, like basically all I hear from people is that, oh my god, the game is so juicy. And from what I've seen, they ain't wrong to say the least. And I myself am obsessed with bullet hell games. But I wanted people who ended up stumbling upon my game to have a unique experience. I didn't want the one person who gets my game in their rating queue to say, oh great, another top-down shooter with big funny headed characters and guns. I'm so excited to rate the game and give it 5 stars and everything because technically they did meet all the requirements perfectly. I'm not saying that the top-down shooters that people made are bad. I'm just saying that I want to try myself something new. So let me pitch my new game idea. It's a racing game, a top-down one. But you don't just race, you also race against bosses with unique abilities. So you do just race but against a specific character? Where am I going with this? Well, thing is, a racing game with a twist. And I don't have to worry about the don't stop theme much because the whole damn point of a racing game is to not stop. Stop too much equal lose. So, same day, I worked until like 2 in the morning, but I actually got a pretty decent car controller and even started working on some basic enemy racer AI. Day 3. I did a lot to say the least. I worked for like 6 hours, but honestly I have no regrets. It was probably the most productive day in my life, which is extremely rare for me. First of all, I made an entire map, in a very strange way. See, setting up a map properly is big cringe and takes up a lot of time. So my dumbass decided to go into Aseprite and draw the map, apply Collider to it in Unity, and call it a day, even though I did the same thing during my last jam and I greatly regretted it. But despite my doubts, it actually worked very well with a pixel art style, and it added a lot of natural feeling randomness to my map, which pixel art usually lacks. Natural is just a code word for this looks horrible because I drew it with my own mouse. Secondly, I finished off Enemy Racer AI. Not much to say here without sounding like some nerd and confuse anyone who doesn't actually code games themselves, but I do gotta give a shout out to the person who actually gave me the sacred knowledge of the perfect top-down controller and racer AI. His name is Pretty Fly Games on YouTube. Now, usually I don't follow tutorials very strictly and end up just derailing off of the tutorial and creating my own system halfway through the tutorial video. But this was different. This dude made a top-down car controller tutorial series with over 13 parts, with each one covering a new system that a car controller game could use. Everything from leaving skid marks and smoke particles to an AI racer with scalable difficulty. He carried me through this jam. Without him, KART Racing Game of the Year 2022 would simply not be a thing. He apparently even released an entire high-quality multi-platform game using the code he explained in the tutorials. So you know what? Don't even subscribe to me on this video. Subscribe to Pretty Fly Games. The next 2 days weren't very interesting. Don't get me wrong. I was still somehow extremely productive, but nothing to talk about in the video. I worked on some sounds, I set up some proper AI pathfinding, which was surprisingly easy, and just some back-end things like bug fixing. And then, something absolutely indescribable happened. I was actually enjoying my game. Now let me tell you, that feeling was magical, and that's not even an understatement. I've always dreaded testing my games, but right now I was noticing that when I was launching my game to check out some tiny little thing I tweaked, I would end up riding around the map for like 10 minutes straight before snapping out of it and looping the same process. And I didn't even have a winning system or scoreboard yet, or like any mechanics that would actually make the game playable. So that's what I did. I had 3 days remaining, and it was time to actually make the game have an objective. First, I added a lap counter that would keep track of everyone's laps, and once 3 cars passed the finish line 3 times, the game would be over. And if the player was one of those 3 cars, you would win. And now it's time to finally implement the twist that would make this game not a shitty top-down Mario Kart ripoff. Bosses, or boss, singular, because I had to scrap my second boss idea, I didn't have enough time. My idea for the boss was a slime creature that wore a sideways cap and sunglasses and would act like a stereotypical 5th grader who watched his first 13+ movie and now constantly says swear words in the wrong context because he's supposedly more mature than everyone else's age, and his name would be Big Sloppa. Totally not the Russian online wildcat named Gosha, or commonly known as Big Floppa. So yeah, Big Sloppa would basically just be like a wannabe gangster who tries to be cool and fails miserably. I feel like that would just like give the game a lot of character, and it'd be like a lot of life for him. Plus, that dope ass hat and sunglasses, like bro, Sloppa, leave some ladies for us, god damn. Alright, enough talking about how cool Big Sloppa is, let's actually add the sentient muck to the game. Luckily, the last game I made was literally just a single boss rush, where you just fought bosses and that's all you did. So I had some experience creating bosses already. I went and designed some attacks for him. He would have 2 attacks, partially because I was running out of time, and partially because it's kind of hard to integrate a mechanic that doesn't belong in a certain genre. Because can someone name a single racing game where your opponent actually tries to block you using special attacks? Yeah, I haven't played many racing games apart from Mario Kart, but admittedly, I have never heard of such an outlandish idea, so it was kind of hard to properly balance it and make it fun, but difficult at the same time. The 2 attacks I settled with was the grenade throw, where he would just like spawn a bunch of grenades around him and then they would explode, creating these massive puddles of goo, and if you drove into them you'd slow down, and also the trail track, where he kind of like turns into a snail and then leaves a trail behind him, and then if you go into the trail you also slow down. Both of those attacks ended up being like not extremely fun, but they weren't overly annoying either and still posed a challenge. Now my game is practically ready. I only need 2 big things, a UI and music. That's what I told my homie Kaboomtoon when I returned to school having 1 day left of the jam. And you guys won't believe what this dude said.
Hello Zesty, how has your break been?
Oh yeah, it's been pretty good. I'm actually currently doing a game jam.
Yo really? Let me write you a song.
Did you just ask me if you can write my game a song?
Yeah, I want to advertise my YouTube channel.
Alright, sure I guess. And just like that, the song with 5 different name titles came into existence. you can find the video to the full song on my YouTube channel. Finally, I created a main menu, I put together some crappy game modes, and uploaded it to the Game Jam page with around 16 hours remaining. And with all that said, I finished my game, and it went surprisingly smoothly too. Apart from me needing to relearn how to create UIs at 1 in the morning on the last day because I've been doing it wrong the whole time, it went amazingly, and let's just not talk about that. And finally, I will now shamelessly plug my socials into this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, and join my desolate wasteland of a Discord server with a whopping 3 inactive members on it. Goodbye.